We are joined on the line right now by Senator Ted Cruz, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who is present for the idiotic Democratic assault on Attorney General William Barr. Senator Cruz, thanks so much for stopping by. Really appreciate it.
Ben, it's always good to be with you.
So let's start with this. What was your take on the Democrats' attempts to somehow turn dross into gold with this Mueller letter? So apparently Mueller wrote, for those who don't know, Mueller apparently wrote a letter to William Barr after William Barr's initial summary saying that he was angry that Barr's summary didn't include a synopsis of all of his various evidence, and Barr basically responded by then releasing 448 pages of the Mueller report, the entire Mueller report. And Democrats are calling this obstruction, or they're accusing Barr of lying. What exactly are they doing here, Senator?
They're simply emoting their rage for Donald Trump. What was striking, number one, what was striking is Sherlock Holmes's famous dog that didn't bark. What they didn't talk about virtually at all was Russia, was the alleged Russia collusion. For 2.5 years, they've been going on nonstop about their allegations of Russian collusion. And of course, the special counsel concluded unequivocally that the evidence did not support criminal charges on Russian collusion. So their whole central talking point and attack on the president was refuted by the special counsel's report. So instead, what they talked about, most of the time, the Democrats devoted their attacks to attacking Bill Barr because at the time that Barr released his 4-page summary of the conclusions of the special counsel report, Bob Mueller asked that Barr also release the 19-page summary that Mueller had written. Barr didn't release it at the time. Instead, he released it 3 weeks later with the entire report, 448 pages. And so the Democrats are going on and on, pulling their hair out, by suggesting essentially that Barr is hiding this. But he released the damn thing. He released every page of the 19 pages. You can read every word of it. It's public. The Democrats have it in their hand. So they're literally like holding it up saying, "You're hiding this from me." And they're holding the full report. I mean, it even for Senate Democrats on judiciary, it was a level of asinine partisanship that really exceeds where they normally are.
And one of the things that I find so hilarious about this is that there seems to be the sense among Democrats, and apparently the Democrats who work for the Washington Post, that Attorney General Barr did something deeply wrong in releasing his 4-page synopsis of the charges themselves. And Mueller's letter really was about Mueller, it seems to me, being angry that Barr wasn't going to include all of his emoting about President Trump in the Mueller report itself. The Mueller report itself does not include evidence of criminal behavior, which is why Barr is not pushing for criminal charges, why Mueller didn't recommend criminal charges, presumably. And yet Mueller was apparently angry that Barr's initial synopsis didn't actually include within it all of the embarrassing material about Trump that was not actually criminal. Well, last I checked, it's not the job of an attorney general, and you've served as Solicitor General in Texas, it's not the job of an attorney general to release information that smears somebody who's not being prosecuted, last I checked.
Look, that's absolutely right. But more fundamentally, most of the breathless coverage and the partisan quotes that are coming out from Democrats and Democratic mouthpieces in the media are suggesting that Barr somehow hid something.
Right.
Every single page of the 19 pages Mueller asked to be released has been released. It's public. You can read. It's not what Barr wrote, what Bob Mueller wrote. You can read those 19 pages, and not just the 19-page summary. You can read the entire report. And what Barr made the decision to do is he said, look, I don't want to release this thing piecemeal. I don't want to release the 19-page summary and then 3 weeks later release the rest of the report. I'm just going to release the whole damn thing. And so what is their allegation? It doesn't make any sense. As I told General Barr at the hearing, I said, they're accusing you of somehow hiding or suppressing this. Well, I got to say, if you were hiding and suppressing it, you're really lousy at it because you released the damn thing and it's public and anyone who wants to can read it.
I think my favorite contention today, Senator Cruz, came from Senator Kamala Harris, who is now contending that apparently Barr, before he decided whether or not to prosecute President Trump, had to go through all of the evidence that Mueller had already gone through. It was necessary for Barr to not look at the 448-page Mueller report and then take that at face value, despite the fact that Mueller was so relied upon by Democrats that they were printing his face on votive candles. Now, apparently, Barr was supposed to go through the hundreds of thousands of pages of documentation that the entire Mueller team had already spent $25 million compiling and going through, and then find what? I guess the needle in the haystack that was going to prove that Trump actually should be charged with obstruction of justice. I mean, you've worked in the law for your entire life, effectively speaking. Have you ever heard of a situation where an attorney general goes back through the underlying material that his own people are not recommending prosecution over?
Yeah, of course not, but it's even more fundamentally idiotic than that. Senate Democrats seem to believe that nobody has any memory of anything they said yesterday or the day before, and so they live in the moment of whatever partisan attack gets their left-wing base energized. So I was sitting in the Judiciary hearing room when we had Bill Barr's confirmation hearing, and I recall Senator Harris and just about every other Democrat screaming at him then, "Don't you dare second guess Bob Mueller. Don't you dare. You need to give Bob Mueller the discretion to investigate this. Don't interfere with his investigation." And they were going on. And now suddenly she's saying, "Why didn't you interfere with Bob Mueller's investigation? What do you mean you actually let him come to factual conclusions?" I mean, it was, and okay, the moment that it truly became through the looking glass was when she said, "Rod Rosenstein, did you get an ethics opinion on whether he could participate in the charging decision?" Just a few weeks ago, they were heralding Rod Rosenstein and Bob Mueller as like Mother Teresa and Pope John Paul, if they thought those were people that were praiseworthy. I mean, it's Rod Rosenstein was a U.S. attorney under Barack Obama, and virtually every one of the Democrats voted to confirm him. And now she's saying she was implying it was unethical for Rosenstein to have any conclusion on this. At the end of the day, it's real simple, Ben. This is partisan vitriol. They hate Trump, and it doesn't matter what the facts are. They don't care what the facts are. They don't care what the evidence is. They just hate him, and their party is that rage and hatred trumps everything else, to coin a phrase.
Well, we're watching former Attorney General Eric Holder, who described himself as Barack Obama's wingman, criticizing William Barr, who has just released a 450-page report that does not show President Trump in a fantastic light, is pretty rich. And watching Democrats who were perfectly happy to watch James Comey let Hillary Clinton off the hook without having Loretta Lynch examine the underlying evidence, call for a re-examination of the underlying evidence, is also pretty rich. Senator Cruz, I know that obviously you've been watching the developments in Venezuela. What is your take on those developments, and why is it that so many Democrats are having a hard time saying that Maduro needs to go?
Well, look, this is a incredibly pivotal time potentially in Venezuela. We could be seeing within hours or days a transition to a legitimate constitutional government, the fall of the socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro, who is producing misery and suffering and has destroyed the Venezuelan economy. We're right now seeing protests. We're seeing people standing up for democracy, standing up for freedom. That's a powerful moment. Now, it also has the potential to become very, very violent as Maduro relies upon Cuban thugs and Russian thugs to potentially commit horrific acts of violence. And what's really pivotal right now, that there are about 3,000 generals in the Venezuelan military. Those 3,000 generals, they have a decision to make right now. Who are they going to side with? Are they going to side with Maduro, who is an illegitimate dictator, who has no legal claim on authority, who is a despot, and who is on his way out? Or are they going to side with the people of Venezuela, with constitutional government, with Juan Guaido, who is the legitimate leader selected by the democratically elected institutions in Venezuela? And are they going to side with the people of Venezuela? And from a U.S. perspective, I think we need to see the maximum number of both carrots and sticks. Carrots to encourage those generals stand on the right side of history, but also sticks. If you stand with the dictator against the Venezuelan people, you personally will face sanctions. If you're a general, your family will face sanctions. That decision will haunt you for generations to come.
Well, Senator Cruz, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you stopping by, giving us an update. I cannot for the life of me understand how you spend every day in the company of some of the people you have to listen to. So thank you for making that sacrifice on our behalf, because my God, dude, that's pretty wild stuff. So thank you, sir.
Well, it's a pleasure to be in the arena, and I will tell you, as much transparency as we've seen from Bill Barr, and it's been extraordinary transparency, releasing 448 pages of the Mueller report, I also urged Barr to show the same transparency in making public the degree to which the Obama administration spied on President Trump, spied on his political opponents, politicized the Department of Justice, politicized the FBI, and abused law enforcement and national security for political and partisan purposes. I hope we see exactly this much transparency there, and I'm hopeful that we will.
Well, I appreciate it, Senator Cruz, and I'm sure that we will get to the bottom of all of this. Thanks for your time.